All right. Good afternoon, everybody. How y'all doing? Fantastic. I am Morris York. I'm the Director for Library Initiatives for the Big Ten Academic Alliance. I'm joined by Carla Strebe, who's our Visiting Program Director for Shared Collections. And we are going to talk to you this afternoon about operationalizing a new paradigm with the big collection. So you have probably remembered we've been giving several updates at CNI about the big collection. One in the spring of 2021 when we were launching the sort of our conceptualizing and strategy phase, came again in December of 2022 when we were just about to launch the building phase. And now we've been building for about a year and a half. I always like to think a year and a half. And then Carla reminded me, it's February. It's like a couple months away. It's basically here. So almost 2 years. And what we're going to talk to you about today are the insights that we've gained from the building phase and really leaning in to where we are today. So bringing several updates, and we're excited to be able to come today and say, here is where we are. Here's what we're learning. So I am going to speak to you about the high level, right? I'm going to get up on the balcony for a second and look at the framing for all of this. So just a quick context first for BTAA. And some of you who know the Big Ten and know who we are, don't know who we are because we just expanded again. So there are 19 of us now. We're a coast-to-coast alliance. Last time I talked to you, we were only 15. So that is 1.2 million people across all of our universities. We do about $17 billion in funded research, 800,000 students enrolled in any given year across the Big Ten. We have 5,600 library staff across all of us, about 150 million holdings, print and electronic, across the libraries. That's not even including the special and distinctive collections, and over $850 million a year in annual library expenditures. The North Star for the libraries, and the deans established this North Star just before we began that building phase. So this has been guiding everything that we do in order to advance a just, trustworthy, scalable, and sustainable open knowledge ecosystem, make open, more equitable scholarship our lead purpose. This guides everything that we do. We work it down into every area of strategic priority that we have. What we're going to do today is go from this high level and bring it down into the world of shared print, which is probably our oldest and largest area of activity. This is where we come to the strategic vision for the big collection, to unite our separate collections into one collection, shared and fully networked. Now, it's called the big collection, right? So it's a collection of resources for sure. But it is also a collection of people, a collection of services, a collection of expertise, of technology, of infrastructure. Very importantly, one of the things that we have learned is that the big collection is less a destination. So the question is when are you going to create that? When are we going to have the big collection? Is a very natural one, right? But the big collection is less a destination than a way of being. It's a way of operating with increasing interdependence. Now, there are a couple of things that I want to show you about the history of the big collection. And we're going to put in 2016 up there. That's when we became the Big Ten Academic Alliance. But our origins are actually much earlier. In 1958 is when we were founded as the Committee on Institutional Cooperation, which I am fond of saying was a name that inspired no one. So very glad that we changed the Big Ten Academic Alliance. When we were founded, we were 11 libraries. Now I'm talking about the libraries, right? We have a parallel in the sports conference, but we don't know what's going on over there. Right? We're on the academic side. So actually, you go all the way back to 1958. When we're looking at the libraries, we've never actually been 10, right? So it's more of a brand. That's the sports conference they give, right? But we are the Big Ten. That is our brand. So in 1958, we were founded. And the important thing about this is over 65 years ago, right? So where we stand today, generations of people have brought us to where we are now. And our question is, what is the task for our generation? So let's follow this through a little bit. As we're talking about people, we are also going to talk about the size of the collective collection over time. So in 1964, just a few years after the Alliance was founded, a report was issued with a very 1964 title, Some Observations on the Possibilities of Instituting Cooperative Automated Systems Among CIC Libraries. This is actually the origin of the concept and the vision for the big collection. The libraries, from their very origin, were starting to think about what can we do in trusted collaboration at scale? What's possible, right? So decade after decade, we returned to this idea. We tried it with the people, with the technologies, with the things that were available to that generation to make another effort at this. In the 1990s, when the collective collection was 58 million books, this materialized in the Virtual Electronic Library, the VEL. And it created a union catalog with seamless discovery to delivery across all of the libraries. The VEL lasted for most of the 90s. It did not have a particularly notable ending, except that it was the effort of that generation with the technologies they had in hand to take up this ideal. In 1990, we expanded to 12 institutions. That was Penn State that joined us. We carry forward a little more. In the 2000s, in 2010s, we issued a number of internal reports. So we had that internal report in 64, a project that we manifested in the 90s, more internal reports in the 2010s on the next generation of discovery to delivery. There were 4 of those reports as our interlibrary loan coordinators and our systems coordinators, a number of people across our alliance came back to this. What is it going to look like? What is it going to look like when we get there? 2011, 2013, 2 more expansions, right? So this continually, not only generation on generation, but continually growing alliance, continually growing groups of people joining in to this effort. In 2019, we conducted a study with OCLC, Operationalizing the Big Collective Collection, a 100-page omnibus, which many of you may remember. Fewer of you probably have keep on your bedside table. But that really launched us into a paradigm shift in 2019 when our deans committed to an interdependent future, fully networked, and to uniting the collections. Then I joined right about that time, 2020. I figured, hey, 15 libraries. All right, this is massive, you know. We kind of in my head, conceived the big collection as this fixed thing across 15 libraries. And then another expansion, right? And we kind of, in my head, I had to start all over again. This is a continually expanding thing. But actually, if I had understood correctly by looking back at the history, I would have realized it has been and will be a continuously scaling endeavor. We entered the conceptualizing strategy phase then in 2019, all the way to February 23 when we started building. And that's where we stand today, is bringing you into the picture of where we are, bringing that paradigm into practice. I should mention, by the way, there's a lot on these slides and they're packed. We're going to, as Carl and I move are going to hit the high notes. We wanted to get everything on here so you got the slides afterwards and everything like that. So we're just going to kind of walk you through this and give you plenty to look at afterwards. So let's talk about that moment of operationalizing. Right? What we are seeking to operationalize is a paradigm shift in knowledge itself. And to try to characterize this paradigm shift for you, let's just touch back to like definition of paradigm shifts. Right? A major change in the worldview, concepts, and practices of how something works or is accomplished. In other words, the old laws no longer matter. Only the new laws prevail. Only the new laws operate. But we're right in the middle of that paradigm shift, right? We have to get there to the new laws. In order to get there, we're going to need a few things. We're going to need new agreements, new systems at scale, new ways of understanding, and new workflows. What the generations had to work with brought us to where we are. For our generation to take up our task, we need to create something new, something that takes us to that new paradigm. Within this paradigm shift, we must remember and always be rooted in the principles of equity and justice. They stand at the very foundation of everything that we do. So as we look at operationalizing that model, and I want to walk you into basically how we bring that vision down into the tangibles. What we worked with here at the beginning was a new sort of model. We call it the innovation model, right? The innovation model says we start with a little bit of risk. We start with a little innovation. From that, we consolidate the gains. We keep what works, throw away what doesn't work. We don't need it, right? We do get learning and insight from that, but we don't need to invest in it anymore. As we stabilize those gains, we can put forward a little more risk and innovation, right? Consolidate those gains, keep what works, put forward a little more risk and innovation. And in this way, we start to move in spirals. We can reach further, deepen capacity, reach further, and deepen our capacity. The way that we resource that we put a floor under that to scale us and take us forward, we're shifting strategically from traditional collection-centered approaches to co-investing in scaled services and infrastructure. That co-investment paired with realignment are what take us into the project model that we use for scaling. We pilot things, small investments. If it doesn't work, that's fine. But when we do find those things that work, that's where we want to put our investment. We want to take it to scale as a project. Once we bring it to scale for all members to participate in, that's when it just becomes a program. It's just something we run. We put those sustaining resources behind it. Now we're running at scale. So in order to go with a project model, a resourcing model, we also need a great strategy, right? So the way that we approach this, you've got to have priorities. You've got to know where we're going. So we made a metaphor for this. We're on a road, right? Pretty typical. Like a road map, right? What we mean by our roadmap, and we said, well, if we're going to have a metaphor, let's have a metaphor, right? We're on a road. You can see the signs. We can see that first sign on the road. Mile 1, any content from anywhere to anyone now and in the future. We can't read those signs further down the road right now. We don't have to, right? We just see that first one, and that's where we focus. There are 3 verbs that are operable as we move down that road. What we're building are interoperable systems of trust. That's where we're implementing infrastructure services, standards, and agreements that lay the infrastructure foundation for where we're going. How we'll work and who will be as we do the work. Those 3 areas of infrastructure, systems of trust for print collections, Carla is going to be taking us down into print collections, discovery and access, and open publishing. Automated deposit and robust digitization tie together those infrastructure spheres. How we'll work in community engagement and collective action. That's where our verb becomes organize the community, 5,600 of us across all of the libraries. And who will be is our sphere of equity and justice with a focus on adamant, intentional anti-racism. That's where our verb becomes change the policies and workflows. That's where we change how we work. So this I will allow you to look at in the slide deck, but these are basically our lessons from 18 months on that road. It's our approach, building technology agnostic services that can hook into any stack of technology and services at the member libraries, focusing on capacities, right? It is capacities that we're building. The technologies can switch out. As they evolve, as the generations move, the technologies can change. And the things that we want to build don't exist yet. What we see in front of us, we treat as a kit of parts from which we can assemble the systems, the people, the workflows, the infrastructure that we need. I mentioned equity and justice. We have to look back on where we have traveled to say one of the things that is our charge to take up is a distinct focus on the inequities that have been created. The inequities in public knowledge, in access to resources, in who is heard and what is remembered, and in inclusion, reputation, and scale. These questions, as the public looks at the academy and looks at what we have created, right? Ask questions like, so who gets to see what? On what terms, right? What gets saved? Who decides and why? Who's heard and what gets remembered? Who gets to decide what the faculty and students 30, 50 years from now get to remember? This is our question to grapple with. This is where tackling those questions, especially in the inequities, is where we rise up to what we look at as system-level interventions. This is not just about building our collection, making things a little better for ourselves. It is about an entire ecosystem. Those system-level interventions are challenges that sit at a higher level than any one of us can change alone. They can't be solved, but they can be addressed. We can improve our position by working collectively in community through collective action and through interdependence. I want to leave with these words and hand over to Carla to take us into the world of what we're doing in shared print. Never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. The words of Margaret Mead.
Hi, good afternoon again. I'm Carla Streeb, and I'm the Visiting Program Director for Shared Print Collections. I started in this role in January 2023, and so I occupy that interesting space where I had to make sense of all these conceptualizations and commitments. And also, in February, we moved into build. So with a lot of support from the community and the staff, a lot of what we're seeing here is reflecting both the things I've learned and the things that I've seen happen in that relatively brief period of arguably 18 to 24 months. So I don't want to repeat the timeline, but I do want to note that in the shared print collection space, we started this work, the Alliance Library started this work before 2012, but in 2012, we released the first project, which was the Shared Print Repository program for serials, and that we liked that so well that we did another one. And after 10 years, we had passed the point of the reconceptualizations of the big collection and said, let's move on and really build those in. Let's use this new way of operating and focus on building out a distributed shared collection that adds monographs into the previous serials. And what really enabled us, I don't want that little equation to go unnoticed because, as Morris pointed out, libraries have been running up this hill over and over again for several generations. And so, why do we think that we might be ready to tackle something like this? And it really is that decades of coordinated work, joint investment practice with that, but also the trust and collective learning that has come out of that and that we've been accelerating since 2019. So again, I'm on the floor, not the balcony. So when I'm talking about the paradigm shift in print collections, just a little bit here about what does that look like? And in the print collection space, what we're in the process of working through is shifting from a paradigm where you did local management of your research library collections to meet the needs of your local research community. And you optimized scale and value for users at the local level. In the new paradigm that we're moving towards, we're operating from a different space where we want local collection management to still occur, but it's happening in a context that we understand it's supposed to contribute to and build on what we're doing collectively in the collective management space. And so our efforts to maximize scale and value for our users and advance the common good, live those values, really comes through that persistence of local collections, but that addition of the collective shared collection. And I'll say a little bit more about what we mean by that and what our intentions are for the shared print collection. So we're scaling to a distributed, federated, networked archive. We have documents saying that, incorporating monographs alongside serials, and moving from wonderful collective of print collections. We all have wonderful things among our members, but really building those together to a scaled print collection that's the shared print collection. And the way that that's going to work, and when we start working with our members so they can designate things from their collection, is that they're going to designate them. They're going to continue to own them. They're going to continue to hold them in their spaces. They're going to continue to provide services with their staff and resources. But the things that they choose to designate to the shared print collection will come under joint stewardship. And that joint stewardship is active on a going forward basis. And it's going to encompass both persistence and access. And to get us started, we have been drafting shared print agreements. We have a working group that has basically drafted them. They're just putting literally crossing T's, dotting I's. We'll meet next Tuesday and see if we're done and can submit our report. So we're almost there, and that's going to be the set the foundations for joint management. That the little arrow's like 2025. We're going to go there. So what does this mean? Just again from the floor, some of the models that Morris was talking about. And as I've been in this role for almost 2 years, one of the things that's really very evident to me as I watch this happening is that we are both developing technology and agreement in the community. And that's through that process of collective learning and developing new mechanisms for working together. So at the outset, we focused in 3 kind of technological areas, and all 3 of these predate my time, the planning and initiating, but then we got to build. So we really have focused on the fulfillment side, one of the 3 capacities. Second capacity has been community-wide analytics of our collections. We have to have understanding of the content that we're really talking about. And then this capacity to manage that collection. And on the technological side, that has been, we've been evolving our understanding of what that means, what that looks like. And we've come to call that the agreements engine. And it's not quite there, but we're almost there. And so as we've been working on the fulfillment side and the technology side, modernizing the borrowing backbone, we've also been working very much on harmonizing our fulfillment practices and doing work on ILO policy harmonization. In other words, how long people can borrow things for, how many renewals they get, so that users accessing materials anywhere in the network can expect the same level of access to that. And so that as we've been working on the borrowing backbone, that's actually been in dialogue with that policy harmonization to make sure that that technology actually meshes in with the policies. And because it didn't when we started. And so we had to make sure that what we were, it was a kit of parts in a way, but we had to tune that kit to work into what our community has worked on the agreement side. And similarly with our collection analytics capacity, which came up on board a year ago in September, that's really kicked off our work around shared print agreements and our definition of what makes sense in the community. And we've, again, had to work with our technologies to make sure that they really line up and support our members in the coming process of selecting from their own collections and being sure that they can meet those agreements. And at the same time, we didn't necessarily anticipate this, but we realized almost a year ago that we can actually tune our analytics capacity to support the work we're doing in the fulfillment side, and so that we can actually reflect fulfillment states, lending states in the analytics. And so that can feed back into selection for the shared collection. And as we go through the selection process, that agreements engine is what's going to need to evolve as in the next year, so that that technology supports registry, but then also allows us to go forward in that joint management. So I know what people are really interested in, right? We said we'd tell you what we learned. We talk about our learning in three arenas. And the first one is one of the ways that, we're talking about the balcony, we're talking about the floor. How can we be changing our perception of the opportunity space? Well, it turns out that it's not just about looking down from above or getting your hands dirty and seeing what's really going on. It's actually an ongoing learning process. And as the community goes through that process, and we work forward towards the mile marker, we start to develop a better understanding of what our opportunities are and how we can organize our work going forward. As we get the foundation under us, we're like, it doesn't quite look the way we thought it would. We can see more often. It's like, well, we came here just to do X, but now that we're here, we can see that we have other opportunities as well. And certainly the deployment of the analytics tool especially underlined that in the opportunity space, when we're looking at the shared print collection, it's not really about how to realize efficiency and launch a bunch of deduplication and create cost savings in a co-managed general collection. As soon as we did the collection analysis, we're like, wow, what's really noticeable about our collection is how much uniqueness it is. Yes, there is some commonality, but what we really are working with when we think about access and persistence, it's a lot of stuff that's really quite unique. And as we absorb that, we start to realize that we need to be thinking about broadening access, not realizing efficiency. And we need to understand that we are stewarding and providing access to a distinctive research collection. And that what we want is for users across the network to have the same really high levels of access, but also anything we do to add value to that collection, we want that to apply for all of our users. We've learned a ton, of course, about working in community. And of course, we know now that we need some new communities and we need some new structures to organize and manage our collective work. But we also, I think this has been a little surprising perhaps to some of our deans at different points, that when we're talking about realignment, it's very complex. We have to do all kinds of realignments at the community level, but our members also have to do realignment inside. And that realignment inside is not just like, oh, we change things out here in the community and then we bolt them on to the member institutions like their new services. No, our member libraries have to be organized to engage in the process every day as we go together, as that interdependence deepens, as we invest collectively. Those realignments inside our member libraries have to be ongoing and to allow participation in the community and to ensure that the benefits of what the community is doing really gets integrated into the member libraries. And then, again, perhaps for some, not so surprising, but we got a new look at this, understanding that metadata is really central. We're talking about our shared print collections, but what we're really working with is our metadata. And if we don't really attend to the metadata, nothing is happening with those collections. Our ability to add value or increase access really can't happen. And again, this is very powerfully came out with our collection analysis tool when our members first got to see their own metadata in a way that was really very transparent and very accessible to anyone in our member libraries can go in and do some basic analyses and see their own metadata. They can see the collective metadata. They can see their metadata in contrast or connection with metadata from other libraries. And it's really creating a deeper understanding of the importance and value of working with our metadata to pursue those values and address perceived limitations, as well as make sure that our metadata, when it comes together, can support the collective work and foster those new opportunities that we're starting to see as a community. So this is really all to Morris, but it's a great way to wrap up here, because I think speaking from the floor, again, I love the mile marker metaphor, and I can see at the back of the room, and it's very true when you're on the floor. It's not like, oh yes, that's happy talk from the balcony. The reality from the floor is that really, as you start to walk on the way, it does appear in front of you. And now you might have to change your direction a little bit to keep up with it. Might not exactly go the way you anticipated, but we've really been amazed at the speed actually at which we can go, and the way that the road really comes up to meet us. So I think actually, judging from the little timer here, we have time for some questions.
Hello, I'm Michael Nelson, ODU. So I'm one of the rare academics that actually loves college football. And your alliance, of course, being driven by ever-increasing football revenue. The Big Ten is one of the two winners in this game. Likely, looking forward to the next 10 years or so, two outcomes. Most likely is that it'll continue to expand, say 30 or so members. That's one possibility. The other possibility, if Disney, ESPN runs out of money, the conference will collapse and it'll shrink. And that's actually, I suspect, a more difficult scenario. And I'm wondering, have you planned for, in the interest of broadening and integration and making access available, what happens when your president says, we're going to kick the California schools out or something like that? Do you have plans for de-accessioning your libraries?
Hey.
I love that question. I will say also, I hear the break out there, so we'll stay in here and answer questions, but people who want to get refreshment and everything like that, this is the time. Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So athletics and academics. So a couple thoughts on this. One is that the Big Ten Academic Alliance is the only sports conference in North America that has an academic counterpart. The SEC doesn't, the Pac-12 didn't when it collapsed. It's something that binds us together with a deeper layer of interdependence than what sports can bring. When we look at the sports, there is of course, you could look at it and say the sports is driving things, right? I mean, it's like ridiculous amounts of money on that side. I live next door to a huge Big Ten sports fan, a longtime donor to the Michigan Library. We were talking about, this is like, what's going to happen in sports? Is it going to dilute it? Are we going towards two super sports conferences nationally? What's going to happen? And I could say with confidence, I don't know what's happening on the sports side. something will happen. But what I can tell you, it might be getting weaker, it might be getting stronger. I don't know. It's not my specialty. What I can tell you, though, is the academics and the research just keep getting stronger. No one, well, it's funny to say in this world of collapsing sports conferences, but no one has ever left the Big Ten. And one of the reasons for that is because that's 65 years of building in those deep interdependent, that's like infrastructure level. It's across everything that the universities do. It's across the, arts and sciences deans, the graduate deans, the CIOs, the libraries. So the ties are very deep. So we have not as yet said, well, we need to build a plan for if everything falls apart, because our hope and our foundation is in that interdependence and that networked future together.
Curious, do we have time for one more question? Or?
Yeah, sure.
So, was that a no, Jen? No. All right. Oh, thank you. Eric Mitchell, UC San Diego, responding to my previous colleague, Jen Stringer, who's going to heckle me. So Carla and Morris, great to see you both. I saw on a previous slide the notion of a distributed collection with agreed upon stewardship. Could you just talk a little bit more about how you're incentivizing or how you're thinking about incentivizing that sort of structure?
We were having a wonderful conversation about this like just hours ago. So I think
Okay. I was hoping someone would ask me that. It's funny because Morris didn't think anyone would. Thank you, Eric. I'm deeply indebted because I've thought a lot about that. Interestingly, in my role, and what I've come to really appreciate, I think, and this is like I'll put it in the 2024 like realizations column as I come to the end of the year. Members choose what to designate for the shared print collection. Well, why would they choose to designate anything? And to get us started, there's an commitment here to everyone contributing and everyone participating in this. This isn't a proposal we developed and offered to people. This goes back to 2019. So that gets us some ways. I'm not saying that, because we all agreed we're just going to do it and it's going to last forever. But what I can see now is that as we get to the point where people start designating things for the shared print collection, by the end of 2025, we will have something we can point to as this is the shared print collection. These are the things that are in it so far. And it's probably not going to include stuff from all our member libraries in the first year. It's going to take them longer than that to even get through their local process to start. But what's going to happen under joint management, in my mind, is things then become eligible for that collective investment, because the shared print collection is where collective investment, can be focused. And so if you want something to benefit from those collective investments, let's say they're in digitization or metadata, or even just in agreeing to follow standards for storage conditions or something, you start to create this situation where the parts of your collection that aren't in the shared print collection may actually not be eligible for investments that things that are in the shared print collection become eligible for. And so I'm not, members may well decide to deduplicate at some point, or multiple points against the shared print collection, but there's going to be benefits that accrue to the things as we get into that collective investment phase. And if you think about like HathiTrust, once we had HathiTrust, that became almost its own incentive to get involved in digitizing things, because we have a place to put it. We have a place where we can invest in investigation of copyright. We have a place where we can be thinking about metadata improvements. We can have a focus for equity and justice. I know some of our members really are interested in talking about, let's do coordinated collection building. If you're making agreements about who collects what, and what underpins that is all those things are going to go into the shared print collection. And if there are metadata standards, if there's fulfillment requirements, all those things apply. And so there's going to be growing incentives, I think, for our members over time to want to move more and more of their collections into the shared print collection, because those collective investments then begin to accrue to add value to those things.
Thank you.
So that's my logic. I'm sticking to it.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. All right.